It's certainly a privilege to address a room full of change agents at a time when we need more advocates for our students than ever before. I also want to thank Complete College America for reaching out to states, for being relentlessly focused on college completion, for focusing on addressing equity gaps, and for doing all the good work that they continue to do. As Tom mentioned, change has come to America. You see it on the news, on the social media, lots of speculation about what does it mean, what will the policies be, who's going to be in charge, how does this all fall out for our country. And I'm reminded, as I traveled here on last evening, I'm reminded that on the day after, on yesterday, November 9th, while the talking heads on every channel were speculating about what does it mean and what's going to happen, on yesterday, November 9th, students got up, grabbed their backpack, and went to school. Faculty enlightened and engaged students. Campus leaders were thinking about student voice and student success. And while there's lots of swirl in this country, our mission remains very focused and clear. How do we ensure that opportunity for all is not just a great saying in this country, but is a great reality? We are committed to education because it is foundational for our democracy, but it is transformational for our students, for their families, for our states, for our nation. Education remains a proven pathway to prosperity for so many, and for many of our students, a pathway from poverty to prosperity. And so we stand committed to this work because there is so much work to be done. As you know, there's never been a more critical time to promote college completion. And that's why you, as the Alliance of States, are here, because you are committed and focused, thinking about what you can do from your position, from your place of influence, to move success forward for students. The good news is we have work to build on. As you have heard, high school graduation rates are at an all-time high in this country, and we see large gains among Black and Hispanic students who have traditionally underperformed in some places. High school dropout rates are down, more students are enrolling in higher education than ever before, and we are pleased in this administration that over 1 million more African American and Hispanic students are enrolled in our colleges and universities. Access is growing, and we want it to continue. But we're here today because we have to focus on student success. How do we ensure that more students finish what they start, that we have less students who end up with debt and no degree? That is the change that binds us together, all of these states in this room and across this country. And while we celebrate bright spots, institutions that are doing great things, that are moving completion needles forward, that are addressing equity gaps, we know that we will not pilot our way to addressing equity gaps or ensuring completion for all in this country. Incremental change will not get us where we need to be. We need to scale solutions that work, and we need solutions that match the scale of the challenges before us in this country. And so we have so much more to do, because we have to change the narrative in our America. Currently, as you know, your parents' education level, your family's income level determines how high you soar for too many of our students. And so we have to address those issues and change that reality. When we look at race, we know that white Americans outnumber Black Americans 2-to-1 in attaining undergraduate degrees. If we look at these statistics by income, by age 24, students from affluent families are 7 times more likely to have earned their degree than students from poor families. Students who go part-time, first-generation students, are also challenged and struggling in this country. And we have to have urgency about this work, because we know today in our America, 50% of our students in K-12 are minority students. More than 50% are free and reduced lunch. And what does it say in our country today when 1.6 million high school students are enrolled in a school with a sworn police officer but no guidance counselor? What does that say about our commitment to talent? We have to change that. We have to change that. These are unacceptable realities in America today, but we can do better, and we must. That's what brings us together today. To succeed, we must continue to push forward, as you heard from the panel, talking about what scales, looking at evidence-based practices, learning from each other, pairing and sharing, being bold and aggressive as champions for our students. We do see change in higher education. We see pockets of innovation. We see individuals like you who are asking, how do we do better, thinking about continuous improvement. We see innovation in delivery of education in our country. But we also see change in our classrooms. We see traditional students likely to sit next to a returning veteran, a single mom, a traditional student, a non-traditional student, a first-generation student, a minority student. All of them, perhaps from different geographic locations, different race, gender, but united in their quest for a better and brighter future through education. Failure for them, failure for us is not an option, because we know that education is the pathway to prosperity. We also know that our workforce and our economy is changing. And so when we look at the Georgetown Center studies, we see that for this year, first time in our country's history, that when you look at the pie of the workforce, the slice that is college educated is larger than the portion that are high school credential or less. 65% of our workforce today has a credential of value beyond high school. And so the knowledge economy punishes those who do not have a credential. And that means for us in America, all of you in your states, that we must be committed to ensure that we have systems and structures that ensure that every student has a credential of value beyond high school, no longer a luxury, but an economic necessity. Education is foundational for our democracy. It is transformational for our students. Our Secretary of Education, John King, has a wonderful story to tell. He talks about losing his parents at a very young age. And he says, my teachers saved my life. They looked at me and they didn't see a minority student in the storm. They saw a young person with unlimited potential. And they knew that I could rise to the occasion if they supported me. And so my teachers' education saved my life. It is a powerful story. But we know education is transformational for our students. So we need more life-changing and more life-saving through education in our country. And we are committed to see that move forward. We also know what happens if we fail. Too many of us see young people who drop out of school and drop into trouble. I have visited maximum security prisons to talk to individuals who are now part of our Second Chance Pell experiment, students who are now incarcerated but have an opportunity to seek education. And I remember standing at a commencement of all African American males, watching them march in, feeling a lump in my throat at Angola State Penitentiary. We are committed to this work because failure is not an option, because talent development is a necessity, because what we do, what each of you do, your commitment, your momentum, your focus matters, and it matters a lot. When we take a look at what's happening, I heard Yuri say, this is not prison. But we've done a study at the Department of Education looking at incarceration versus education, and the bottom line is we are not funding our aspiration in this country. We have to look at what is happening with the funding. In the last 3 decades, state and local correctional spending has increased 3 times faster than K-12 spending. Nearly half the states, the increase in corrections spending was 100 percentage points higher than the spending on K-12. And in every state, growth in correctional spending is outpacing higher education spending. And so we have to stand as change agents for education, because if we're thinking about economic development, workforce development, driving down incarceration, driving down healthcare costs, all roads lead to education. It is foundational for our democracy, transformational for our students, and a necessity as we move forward. And so we're committed to this work. I'm pleased as I travel across the country at some of the things that I'm seeing. I'm pleased to see states and institutions that are promoting stronger pathways for students. That's something I know you are committed to. I'm pleased to see campuses erasing equity gaps and states standing tall for these issues, thinking about how to use data in an actionable way and removing the barriers for students, focusing on continuous improvement. That's important. Pleased to see a focus in this country on STEM. Pleased to see increased interest in work-based learning, apprenticeships and internships. Those are important as well. I'm pleased to see campuses thinking more deeply around student learning and moving beyond the conversation of the diploma as a proxy for learning, and really thinking about what does that diploma say about what our students can do and what they know in this knowledge economy. And certainly I'm pleased to see this room of champions for change on this day, combined with CCA, focused on changing the rules, changing the game, addressing equity gaps, increasing completion in our country through degree maps, remedial education reform, focusing on 15 to finish and more. We too see the importance of the work that you are doing and the evidence base that we are continuing to build in this country. And so I'm pleased that the President is focused on trying to promote items that will accelerate student success, thinking about and trying to ensure that we have year-round Pell, summer Pell, because we know time on task is important to students, and for so many, issues of affordability and access and success are inextricably linked for our students. We're thinking about on-track bonuses for students who are taking 15 to finish, part of our budget proposal. Also rewarding campuses for making sure that more students who are low-income students are graduating on time, because we know full-time is not on time. And so we have to make sure that our policies and our practices are aligned to continue to move that agenda forward. We are passionate about this work. We are focused on this work. We are committed to this work because it makes a difference. Tom said, momentum matters, but we know that what happens at colleges matters a lot. The rigor of the curriculum, the relevance to the workforce, the relationships that let students know who may be having a self-talk that I don't belong here. That relationship to say, this teacher, that advisor, that faculty member believed in me, saw something in me and said, you can do it. Those things make a difference in our students when it comes to ensuring that they are successful. As we recruit the freshman class in this country, we must ensure that we are recruiting the sophomore class, the juniors, and the seniors as well. And so I'm so pleased to see all of you standing as agents for change in moving this agenda forward. Talent development is a must. We are committed to that work. This is a national imperative for us. And I will tell you that as we transition, as we prepare to move on to other opportunities and see the new leadership come in and support that new leadership, I will tell you that I will remember this day, this room full of individuals, this energy around momentum, around student success, around addressing equity gaps, because it matters. What we do, our policy focus, our priorities, they matter to how we support and grow our country. And so I'm grateful for your engagement. I'm grateful for the students who will benefit because of your commitment, your work, your focus, your momentum. I thank you for being champions for change at a time when our students need more champions than ever before. I hope that each of your states are talking about how to see higher education as an investment, not an expenditure. That you are thinking about how to align policies and practices that continue to accelerate success. That you're scaling what works, that you're testing your data, that you're pushing, that you're thinking about continuous improvement. Because when you do all of that, when we are committed, when we stand united for this work, then we can say, opportunity for all is not just a great saying, it will be a great reality in this country because of your commitment. Thank you.